This meeting will be called to order. This is a regular meeting of the Oaklyn Board of Education. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided. We'll go to a roll call.
Mrs. Valpel?
Here.
Mr. Strauss?
Here.
I don't see Mrs. Rotondo. Mr. McMillan?
Here.
Mr. Tavy?
Here.
Mrs. Marmion?
Here.
Mr. Shaver?
Here.
Mrs. Butchko?
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, moving along. There's no executive session at this time. I'm going to move to Section 3 to our presentations. We'll start with Mr. Yamamoto with the district test report. I'm going to move to the side so I can see. Thanks.
So again, I'm presenting the district test report for Oaklyn, and it's, like I said, it's really part B because I'm going to be showing you the results from last year's NJSLA test. So what is the NJSLA? Basically, it's a state test that tests your students in terms of math, language arts, and science. For language arts, it goes from grades 3 through 9. Math, it's grades 3 through 8, but then there's, and of course, tests such as Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2. And for science, it is actually only in grades 5, 8, and 11. So for math and language arts, the NJSLA has 5 performance levels. Right? So really levels 4 and 5 is where we want to be at. That's considered, I guess, like, quote, passing. And students need a score of 750 or higher to reach that level 4. For science, they have 4 performance levels. And again, if you want to consider like passing, that would be levels 3 or 4. As you can see from this table, students need to score 200 or higher for that. All right, so just a quick note before I actually go into the numbers. From the U.S. Department of Education, if there is information or on a table that is less than 10 students, that information I cannot really show because it's just too small of a subgroup. So for this table, what we're looking at is the results from the ELA from last year. And the reason why on the left table that Oaklyn is all shaded is because they surpassed the state average in grades 3, 4, and 5. All right, so well done, Oaklyn, seriously. But even more so, if you look at the table on the right, in terms of, so what I show here is the 2022 and 2023, which is last year's. And the reason why I'm shading the purple and kind of goes on an angle is because that is actually the cohorts. So what we're seeing here is that from 3rd grade to 4th grade, we have an increase of over 15%, which is incredible because really average growth for a year is about 2 to 3%. So Oaklyn students are really doing amazing. And even here, 50 to 56, again, that's at least twice what the average year growth is. In math, we show that grade 4 is higher than state average. But again, let's look at our growth. From 2022 to 2023, we have a 12% increase in math, right, for our current 4th graders, or sorry, for last year's 4th graders. And then we also have a growth of 2% at least, but it's still, we're going the right track, right? And that's really what's important here is that Oakland is growing, that our strategies are working. And for science, so Oakland is very close to state average. And although it's not cohort data, we do see from 22 to 23 that there was still an increase. Right? So I think that is still very positive. Moving on to some student groups, what I have here is showing gender comparisons for language arts, which is in the far left, math, and science. Really, in terms of comparing males and females for in language arts, the difference was negligible in terms of their performance. Math was also pretty good with it, maybe exception of grade 3, which there was like 17% difference, males outperforming females. In science, there was also a slight gap in terms of males and females. As we look at the student groups for economic level, again, language arts and science, there really wasn't a really large gap between those students who are advantaged and those who are disadvantaged. In math, grade 4 really shows that they're equal. I couldn't show grade 3 because it was less than 10 for that part of those students. And we did have somewhat of a gap in terms of grade 5. So here's really where that N number comes into play. I can't show any data for race and ethnicity or students with or without disabilities because those student groups fell less than 10 students. All right, so just a quick kind of summary of what you just saw. Again, Oakland, congratulations. I think you really did well last year, especially in terms of growth. Again, showing that the strategies that the teachers are doing and the students are learning are really working. I would say that Oakland's focus for this coming year would be mathematics. In terms of the current 4th grade female students, that was where that slight gap was. I would say that kind of keep an eye on them for their math classes. And the list of students of these students was given to Ms. Bolden, so she knows about those students, like who to keep an eye on. In terms of the current 6th grade Oakland students who are in the middle school for science, and the 6th grade students who struggle a little bit for those who are economically disadvantaged, those lists were actually given to the STEM supervisor at Kongswood, so he knows to talk to his teachers so that they keep an eye on our Oakland students as well. In terms of learning acceleration strategies, we are in year 2 of Into Math, which is our new math program. The math program really has a nice diagnostic benchmarking test that gives us lots of information in terms of where we want to take instruction, as well as some MTSS resources. We are working more in terms of the visible learning strategies, so the teachers are digging deeper into those areas. In terms of the schedule, so this is really year 2 of the new schedule that was put in place last year. So what that allowed us, or what allowed Oakland to do, was really to have intervention, K-5 intervention daily, as well as having learning acceleration teachers from grades 1 to 5 that push into the classroom, again, supporting your students. The schedule also allowed for PLC work so that students can work together, which is really important for teacher efficacy. And lastly, Oakland did adopt a new SEL program, which is called Character Strong Purposeful People, and they're implementing it this year. So as this presentation does go on the website, I do have a guide here, a link that will go to score interpretation if parents wanted to learn more about the NJSLA. And of course, they could always contact me if they have questions. And thank you for listen to the presentation. Does anybody have any questions I can review? Yes.
Thank you for the reminder, Denise. So one of the comparisons was between advantaged versus disadvantaged. What is the threshold to be considered into one category versus another? And are you, part A of the question, and then B, so like just how you couldn't show, like display students with disability or students of different race because it represented a small N. By showing this, does that mean it's above the N threshold of having students that are disadvantaged?
So first question is, this is used by students who receive the free and reduced lunch.
Okay.
And the second answer is yes for grades 4 and 5, but in grade 3 I couldn't show information again for that reason.
Okay, because the sample was too
yes.
small. Okay. Thank you for that.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering, I know all these scores are compared to the state average, but do you see trends or able to see trends with, I was trying to do the math of where these kids were when COVID hit, so it seems like 5th grade was in 2nd grade, and are you seeing trends in other schools that, maybe 5th graders are struggling in certain places and things like that?
So, right, our 5th graders here were really in the heart of when they first learned the foundations. I will say some groups tend to just be a little less strong in terms of certain subject areas. But also for this particular class, there was a lot of transitions with the students. And as we get into 5th grade, which is normal really across the board, this is really a hard grade level in terms of the standards. The amount of standards that change between like going to, like, say, kindergarten, which they have to learn, let's say, 5 standards, versus 5th grade, like 5th, 6th, and 7th, that 5th grade really starts the area where standards get involved, and there's just a lot of them for math.
When's there similar? Oh, I'm sorry.
So to wrap out that question, Teresa, I not in this presentation, but we did the digging or the math. We wanted to look at pre-COVID levels for comparison, and so in grade 3 and grade 4 reading, we are above pre-COVID levels, and so we have eliminated those gaps. In math across grades 3, 4, and 5, we're not quite there yet, but we are trending in a positive trajectory. And then in 5th grade ELA, we were 1.5 percentage points short. And so we're almost there in 5th grade.
Windsor, similar request that I made at Collingswood last month. It's fascinating to know that we're better than the New Jersey average, but that tells me I'm better than Camden and Newark and Trenton. I'd rather see the surrounding districts. Can we get the numbers comparing us to Haddon Township and Audubon and Mount Ephraim?
I look for cohort information like that let's see, when I made this a week ago, that information still wasn't publicized on the on a state website. They just had like 2 years ago information. So I understand why you want to see it, and I can get that to you at a later date if you are still interested in seeing it.
Well, next year, when you do it next year, can we get some sort of a more useful comparison?
So the state's a little bit. The state, in terms of publicizing the like what happened last year or the current year that we're looking at, they're all a little bit behind what the individual districts receive. I mean, I could have shown you what happened like in 2022, but I don't know if that's necessarily fair because we have actually grown since 2022.
How about this presentation later in the school year?
I can at a later, or if you want to work, or if you want to see it, I can work or come at a meeting and show you guys information if you'd like to see that.
Yeah, I don't want to see you do twice the work, but in the future, when you do this presentation, if we have to do it later in the year.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Maybe the state will have published the information by then.
Isn't the issue that the state doesn't publish the information adequately to public to everybody else?
Well, so the state does publish some information that I think would maybe answer your question, but I actually can't present this information any later than this month because there actually is a due date that the state says you have to present this to the board, to the public, like at this time.
Yeah, typical state operation, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah, you hurry up, but we're going to take our time. How about if we contacted the local districts? You know, you don't have to contact them all, but if you contacted Haddon Township and Mount Ephraim, something like that, they should have the information for their own district. We could then use that to compare ourselves with.
They would have information. It'd just be a matter of seeing if the districts are cooperating and sharing their information. But I could read.
They may not want to share their
Yeah.
information.
Don't they have to do the same public
No.
presentation?
Well, the public presentation, yes, but they may not want to share. But again, they might not be doing it until now, so you may not be able to get it ahead of time. Like that's the thing. I think we can get it later. That's what he's saying. I just don't think we can. If we can say we want to have it next year, but we're still not going to get it because we can't get it from anybody else until after these dates.
Why do we do this then? Yeah, that's the answer.
Well,
right.
I also, but there's validity to comparing to the state average. I don't want to negate that at all because it also includes the state has North Jersey, which has very high performing schools. So, right? Or are we only comparing? I mean, when you say state average, it's not South Jersey part of the state, right? So I still think it's valid data.
North Jersey has some low-performing schools as well.
The way
Yeah.
it's a state average.
Okay, tell you what, I'll settle for the information later if you can do that at some point in time.
Okay.
The one
Like,
thing
prepare
for
it
me,
over to Christmas break or something.
just because you have Collingswood, like I'd be interested in seeing just how Oakland compares to
Collingswood.
Collingswood Elementary, just as a starting point, even if it's just in committee. I just feel like that might be helpful
Okay.
as well.
All right, I can show Kongswood as well as maybe cohort information at a later
Later date. It doesn't have to be
Okay.
this month or any
Okay.
urgency. Yeah. Thank you.
So on one of the slides, the strategy said, for example, for fourth grade girls, participate in more math classes. And
I guess maybe I meant to be more encouraged to be
okay.
to be part of the math.
so to have a more active role, because when you go back to the slide you were just showcasing that showed the year over year and then compared to the state, I guess it was this year's fifth graders, the graduating class, to see them go from 38.2 to 50, if I'm reading this correctly. What did they do? Like, if we can find out what they did in fourth grade to see a leap that tremendous, that looks like the most impressive jump when we look at everything. I mean, it could be coincidence, but it feels like our teachers and our school had something to do with growth that significant. So if we can maybe get more information on that strategy worked, if we can do something similar. I doubt the whole class left and we got a whole bunch of new ones, so it's the same kids.
So maybe.
So there's a couple things, and so who is directly responsible for that level of phenomenal growth? Students for working hard, but the primary driver were our teachers. We started using new tools last year that gave our teachers more data. Our leadership team, they changed the acceleration approach where they were not just grouping students based on standards, but also based on strategy. And so it was a combination of the instructional leaders in the building between Ms. Bolden and Ms. Soloway, the teachers who had access to more information and they made more strategic instructional decisions, and the students who were willing to accept that level of push that they saw in the classroom. And so I just wanted to make sure that it's not magic, there's no silver bullet, but it was the collective effort of a lot of folks working hand in hand.
But theoretically, if it's the same teachers doing the same strategies, then 35% should jump up next year.
And we do have, Oakland has opportunity because of their schedule, they have set up PLC times that they can have these discussions.
Well, I'll just add that I did a quick Google search and I'm able to see test results for Haddon Township and Haddon Field. I didn't do much else, so I mean that exists. Mr. Thoughts, if you'd like to see those things. Well, I think what you were asking is maybe a little unprecedented. So maybe, yeah, I think it sounds like we have a good solution though.
You could have just posted it too in the last week.
So I do have a follow-up question just based on that. So I know you mentioned they'll be posted on the website. Does this go on the homepage of our website, or is there a section of the website where people could find it if they're looking for it? You know?
I, okay, wait. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you.
Under curriculum on the website for those watching. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Anyone else? All right.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, we'll move on to the second presentation, which is our SDS reports. Ms. Bolden.
So I know this presentation was technically over, but to let you know, at our last PD day, we did celebrate that fourth grade team, and I told all of the third, fourth, and fifth grade teachers to work together for them to share those ideas and strategies that were taking place, because there was something that clicked, for sure. So this is the school safety data report, and this report is actually for the incidents that were reported and the training and programs that were reported between January 3rd, 2023 and June 20th of 2023. So this is last year. It's our second reporting period for last year. In that time frame, we had 4 HIB investigations. 2 were alleged and did not meet the definition, and 2 were confirmed and did meet the definition of HIB. We did not have any other incidents leading to removal. New as of last year was that we have to also report restraints anytime we restrain a child in class. So we did have 3 restraints, and we have that documentation on file, and that was reported to the state. We did not do any additional trainings because all of our HIB trainings take place in the beginning of the year. The programs that we were still implementing were our SEL curriculum and our character ed curriculum. And then in addition, we did do a neurodiversity celebration week, another SEL week focusing on recognizing feelings and the feelings of others, and a Read Across America week that also promoted healing, growth, positivity, and bringing communities together. So those were our programs and trainings in addition to our HIB investigations. That's it. Any questions?
Yes.
Sure.
Hard to believe I'm a Phillies fan. I keep asking questions. The restraints,
Yes.
the 3 restraints, what grades were they?
They were all first grade.
Okay.
And all one person.
Okay.
It happens.
What was the time frame on that?
That was last January to June. Thanks.
Thank you. So we have for number 3 the bus emergency evacuation drill, which I think does not need to be a presentation. We can just
No, it's just we have to give you
Right.
a report of the bus evacuation.
So if everyone on the board could take a look at that, it has to be presented to us. And we will move on to section 4, committee of the whole. Is there a motion to go into committee of the whole?
So moved. Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Does anyone have anything for the committee of the whole? All right, go Phillies. Is there a motion to come out of committee of the whole?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All right. Moving on to section 5, future dates and miscellaneous information. There's a list lots of PTA events as well as Oaklyn town-wide events listed here. Some school events. The school is closed for fall break from November 8th through November 10th. And the next board meeting is November 21st here in the library at 6:30. Moving on to section 6, we have the
Denise,
approval-
I'm sorry,
Oh,
before,
I'm sure, sorry.
before you do that.
Yeah.
And again, next year, because it's too late for this, but shouldn't we put election day on here since we're electing school board members?
That's a good idea. Sure. Let's note when that day is.
Happens to be November 7th this year, in case anybody's interested.
November 7th, Election Day. Thank you. Good reminder.
And today was the last day to register to vote. There it is.
All right. Thanks. All right. Section 6. This is approving the minutes from our September board meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, that's approved. Moving right along to section 7. This is our first public comment section. So if you have something to discuss that is on the agenda tonight, you can come and stand, state your name and address, and please keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Does anyone have anything? All right, hearing none, we'll move right along to section 8 of the superintendent's report.
So good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Section 8.01 is the enrollment report, which is attached September of 2022, 279, as of September 2023, 272. And 8.02 and 03 are the school safety drill reports and the suspension report. And in terms of a few topics, I wanted to share a few key topics for the community and directly for the board. As a school community member and father, I would be remiss if we did not publicly acknowledge the global conflict that is taking place over in the Middle East. We have been focused on making sure that our students as well as our staff have the resources and have the supports that they need, not just to process what they're seeing, but to still be able to move forward. And so we sent out information holistically around areas about how to talk to children about conflict and war, how to help support students in troubling times. And so we encourage any of our community members, if you are or your children are experiencing challenges that may be disrupting their ability to function normally at school, please reach out and we will connect you with resources that we have either on campus or with one of our community partners. In addition, just a few announcements. In honor of Hispanic and Latin American Heritage Month, which concluded on October 15th. We just wanted to share just a few highlights of what has been happening within our school, both here in Oaklyn, as well as the middle school and the high school, which has Oaklyn students. And so schools have celebrated in various ways. And so preschool students worked with age-appropriate resources with their teachers. And then using their curriculum, they figured out ways to embed conversations with our youngest of learners. And so our very own Miss Avistas worked to provide materials for schools in classrooms here, alongside with additional age-appropriate materials. And then our classroom teachers, they celebrated through read-alouds while incorporating displays of books, in addition to having additional resources available here within the library. And so today, and so Oaklyn teachers in general were encouraged to focus on Hispanic heritage throughout the month by using resources provided by the leadership team. But instead of teaching it in isolation, the goal is to incorporate cross-curricular learning about the Hispanic community across multiple content areas, and not just to isolate it within a 30-day period, but to have continued conversations about how do we support being open and inclusive about the diversity that is in our schools and within our communities. Today, Ms. Snyder and Ms. Havistis also plan to read aloud for preschool students, where they read the book Plátanos Go With Everything. They explored other bilingual books. They passed around real plátanos, which is a fruit, a fibrous fruit. And then they heard presentations from Oaklyn fifth graders about famous Hispanic and Latin Americans throughout history. And so the Library Media Center at the secondary campus curated a series of resources to be used by faculty and staff, originally launched through social studies classes and history, aligned with their curriculum. We'd like to thank Ms. Madden for her support at the middle and the high school. In addition, our multilingual learners in both middle school and high school were working on special projects about their families through personal narratives, exploration of their own cultures and backgrounds. And then on the middle school and the high school campus, bulletin boards were set up to be displayed around campus. In addition to a daily segment on Pause TV, which is completely run, planned, and written by students. And so, in addition, we are pleased to announce that Collingswood, specifically focused primarily at the middle and the high school, has been awarded a new grant from the U.S. Department of Justice focused on preventing school violence. And so it's a federal program designed to increase school safety by implementing training that improves school climate through behavioral threat assessments, intervention teams, technology solutions, anonymous reporting technology, and so forth. And so funds will be used over the next 36 months, primarily at Collingswood Middle and High School. And we just want to thank the leadership team for working to secure additional resources for students. And that concludes my superintendent's report.
Great, thank you for that. Anyone have any questions for Dr. McDowell? All right, moving on to section 9, the business administrator report.
All right, and item 9.01 is a listing of your September monthly budget transfers. 9.02 are your September financial statements. 9.03 is a listing of the purchase orders that have been issued through the month of October. And a 9.04 is a listing of the warrants, which will be paid tomorrow morning pending approval this evening. And that's it.
Thank you. Section 10, the finance committee report. Rich.
Good evening, everyone. We're looking to approve items 10.01 through 10.08. 10.01 is the approval of budget transfers. 10.02 and 10.03 is approval of no certifications of no over expenditures. 10.04 is approval of the secretary and treasurer reports. 10.05 and 10.06 is approval of the purchase orders and warrants. Under new business, we have 10.07, which is approval of a McKinney-Vento agreement with the Sterling High School Board of Education for the 23-24 school year for a displaced student at the attached rate. And 10.08 is approval of a contract with Handle with Care Behavior Management System Incorporated to provide on-site training for our early childhood staff. So we're seeking approval of items 10.01 to 10.08.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve those items?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any questions? Okay, hearing none, on a roll call.
Mrs. Valpel?
Yes.
Mr. Stotts?
Yes.
Mrs. Rotondo?
Yes.
Mr. McMillan? Mr. Tavy?
Yes.
Mrs. Marmion?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Bushko?
Yes. Section 11, curriculum and personnel committee report.
All right, so item 11.01, we're seeking approval for the following staff members to receive a stipend for the 2023-2024 Kindness Club. Now, Kindness Club will be available for our second graders here in Oaklyn. Item 11.02, we're seeking approval for staff tuition reimbursement for the following staff members that are listed and for the amounts that you see. Item 11.03, we are seeking approval for the following substitutes and tutors. And I do want to give a shout out to Mr. Cassius Blankenship, as he was a former 8th grade student of mine that we are now approving for a substitute position. So very happy for him there. And item 11.04, we are seeking approval for a travel expense that was for a music education conference. So we're looking for approval on items 11.01 through 11.04.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve those items?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? All right, hearing none, on a roll call.
Mrs. Falfell?
Yes.
Mr. Stotts?
Yes.
Mrs. Rotondo?
Yes.
Mr. McMillan?
Yes.
Mr. Tavy?
Yes.
Mrs. Marmion?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Butchko?
Yes. All right, Section 12, School Community Relations and Policy Committee. Mrs. Truce?
Hi, good evening. Item 12.01 is a PTA liaison report, which I'm happy to provide. The PTA had their first meeting of the year on Tuesday, October 3rd. It was very well attended. They introduced their new board. Their new president is Lila Andujar, and a couple of returning and then new leadership on the board. There was a presentation from the Oaklyn PTA Community Liaison Committee by Amy Gavigan, which was really great to kind of put together what is happening in the community with PTA endeavors. We went through the treasurer's report, some bylaws, membership report, and mostly there was a lot of talking about the upcoming events. So the chess club started on October 2nd. There was a pre-K and kindergarten family fun night, which is really great. It was a Floors Lava event on the 12th. It looked well attended from what I saw. And it's nice that they're doing something to, really try to connect families that are new to the school and have little ones. There's a dine and donate tomorrow night at Pepperoni Pizza. 20% of all sales will go to the Oaklyn PTA, and you must mention the PTA. It is for dine-in delivery or takeout. We went through this in the important dates, but there's a family fun night bingo night on October 20th. Doors open at 6:30. The PTA is participating in a fall festival that's in Collingswood in Knight Park on Saturday, October 21st. They are also promoting the Reflections contest as well. And there was a really popular Stocks Pound Cake fundraiser that sold out twice. So that obviously did really well for them. Yeah. It's amazing. In new business, there will be 15 teacher grants given out at $100 each this year. They did talk about scaling back the Spring Fling, which has been a perennial, very big event, but has been taking a lot of work with not as much return on it. So definitely we'll still keep the basket auction, but they're talking about, putting more energy into things like the Fall Festival, which is now, and then a little scaled down Spring Fling Festival, but it will still be happening. And then there was a plug for new volunteers and room ambassadors. So I think that is everything. The next meeting is November 7th at 6:30 here in the library. Item 12.02 is me again. Sorry, OMASAC, but it'll be quick. The first gym night is for 4th and 5th graders on November 3rd. And here's a plug for they need volunteers. So any parents or adults out there that would like to volunteer, please be in touch with Adam Schur. Item 12.03 is the Collingswood Board of Education report. Mr. Stotts.
Very good news on this report. Collingswood hasn't had a meeting since our meeting last month, so there is no report from Collingswood.
Thank you, Mr. Stotts. Item 12.04 is the Oaklyn Education Foundation report. Mr. McMillan.
Yeah, I've reached out to Kim Love. I haven't had a response. I don't think there's been a meeting, but there was some Chromebook cards that was purchased for the school that were reimbursed. I don't know if the reimbursements completely happened, but it's been approved for $3,500 for Oaklyn.
Thank you. And then item 12.05 are some policies, 4 policies for a first read. Well, 3 policies for a first read and then abolishment of a policy. So 0144 is board member orientation and training. 2520 instructional supplies. 7440 is school district security, and 9100 is a public relations policy being abolished. So we are seeking approval for items 12.01 through 12.05.
All right, is there a motion to approve 12.05, the policies?
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Any questions on those? All right, hearing none, on a roll call.
Mrs. Vaupel?
Yes.
Mr. Stotts?
Yes.
Mrs. Rotondo?
Yes.
Mr. McMillan?
Yes.
Mr. Tavy?
Yes.
Mrs. Marmion?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Butchko?
Yes. All right, section 13, this is miscellaneous. 13.01 is a recommendation to approve the standing orders governing the treatment in case of emergencies for the 2023-2024 school year, and that document is attached. 13.02 is to move on the recommendation to approve the 2023-2024 nursing services plan and medical emergency response plan. It's also attached. 13.03, I don't think we have this yet. Do we have this yet, Dr. McDowell? This was the CUSAC DPR. We do not. Sorry.
We have to get OEA signatures prior to.
So we will, we're just going to table 13.03 to the November meeting. We'll revisit that next month. So for approval, we are seeking approval for 13.01 and 13.02. Is there a motion to approve those items?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any questions?
Just a quick question. We're awaiting the contract or signatures from the OEA. Is just a matter of timing, or is there any concern why they haven't been signed, or is it just they just haven't signed them yet?
We just finished completing the DPR document, the Excel workbook, so we just have to run around and get everybody's
So it was just a
signatures. So
matter
it'll be
of
on.
timing.
We have
Okay.
to have it uploaded to the Department of Ed by December 15th. So it'll just be on the November agenda. Because I think Denise has to sign it, Fred and I have to sign it, Jen has to sign it, OEA representative.
Gotcha.
Everybody's got to sign it.
Okay.
So we'll run around and get all the signatures, and then in November, everything will be on there.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right, on a roll call.
Mrs. Vaupel?
Yes.
Mr. Stotts?
Yes.
Mrs. Rotondo?
Yes.
Mr. McMillan?
Yes.
Mr. Tavy?
Yes.
Mrs. Marmion?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Bushko?
Yes. All right, section 14. This is our last public comment section. Please stand, state your name and address, and keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. This section is for any items you wish to bring to the board. I'm sorry, can you just reiterate your name and address just for the records? Thank you. So just quick answer. I believe there was information shared with parents of students about the curriculum on the website. Am I correct on that? Yes. And we will not be making a resolution about those other items. We don't need to. Well, the students families are all informed. We don't intend to do a snail mail. It's a great cost to the district to send letters out. We don't need to do that. All the parents are notified via email. Students. Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Go Phillies.